This week's conversation touches on the implications of Trump's administration policies, military deployments, and the shutdown's impact on the citizens. Further topics include the government's fascist tendencies and a debated gun-related incident in Dearborn, Michigan. The concluding part contemplates potential uprisings and insurrections, suggesting an underlying atmosphere of political and social tension.
Let me try it again. Oh, nope, that ain't right either.
Are you trying to say what's happening?
I'm trying to say what's going on.
Oh, man.
Maybe that's Kamos or something like that.
Ascendiendo. There we go. Senors.
Yeah, you getting ready to listen to Bad Bunny?
I'm getting ready. I was going to ask you guys, are you ready? We're about close to 90 days.
I know.
90 days.
I got my 30 or 40 words in. I don't know how that's going to serve me, but yeah, I'm sure I could pick up a few things from Bad Bunny.
Well, just go ahead and put one of his songs on repeat. That way you can learn it and sing along.
Right.
I'm sure I'll be able to do that more or less right away.
Yeah. So I saw that Jay-Z kind of came out and try to squash all that stuff that's been going on. He kind of communicated to say, hey, one, he's not getting paid. The guy's not getting paid for this being on stage, and he wanted, and Bad Bunny wanted to make sure that the fans were going to be safe. He was concerned about that when before Jay-Z even kind of made the finalization on it, on who he was going to use. And then Jay-Z was saying that his whole point of the company, is it Rockefeller? I guess it's up through Rockefeller. I can't
Rockefeller.
Yeah, Rockefeller is part of this because he wanted to expose everyone to the underserved communities.
Right.
And that's why he selected Kendrick last year, and this is why he's selecting Bad Bunny this year, and who knows it'll be next year. But his point was he's giving a voice to these communities, and Bad Bunny wants to do what he can to showcase the Latin community or Latin culture. So that's what I saw. I saw an interview with that, and I thought it was pretty cool that he kind of came out and finally spoke on it.
I didn't know that Bad Bunny was not getting paid.
Nobody gets paid doing the Super Bowl show.
Well,
really?
Typically what happens is when you get that exposure, the millions upon millions of people who are now exposed to somebody that they may not have been exposed to, that in and of itself that's a marketing coup right there. I mean, that advertising you can't pay for. I mean, you're not getting direct pocket, but, a lot of times the music that they sing becomes that much more popular because of the exposure, which means more downloads or purchases. So there is a benefit to the artist.
Oh, definitely. The crossover appeal and a new audience. But here's another not a big stage, but a big stage thing. NPR Tiny Desk. Those guys don't get paid. They go to that, perform on that on their own cost.
Really?
Now, if they're smart, they would make it monetized by being in that town, booking a gig while they're in that town, and selling merch or whatever. But sometimes things do come after that. But NPR's Tiny Desk, those guys don't get paid for that. They just, again, it's a large stage audience on the internet.
Right.
Yeah. All right, gentlemen. So there's a lot of moving parts today in regards to just one thing: Insurrection Act. So, Mike, you said you looked it up. You want to give us the official definition, or you want to let me give you the short version of it?
Well, no, this isn't a long version. This is from Wikipedia. The Insurrection Act of 1807 is the U.S. federal law that empowers the President of the United States to nationally deploy the U.S. military and to federalize the National Guard units of the individual states in specific circumstances, such as the suppression of civil disorder, of insurrection, and of armed rebellion against the federal government of the U.S. The Insurrection Act provides a statutory exception to the Comitatus Act.
Right.
That was 1878. That limits the president's deploying the U.S. military to enforce either civil law or criminal law within the United States. The Insurrection Act provides the exception for the president to deploy the military or the National Guards in cases of civil disorder or insurrection or rebellion against the federal government of the United States. Civil disorder, insurrection, and of armed rebellion, not just rebellion, armed rebellion against the federal government of the U.S. That's what the Insurrection Act is supposed to protect us, how it is supposed to protect us.
I'll just add on to that, not to mention, Mike, it's supposed to be a last resort, and that last resort coming as a result of the government, the cities and or states not being able to contain individuals who decide to go up against the government. Okay, and it's not even, it's defined separately from a riot per se. Okay, it's this really rebellion that goes against not only federal law, but whatever that state might be, and it can't be contained by the forces, i.e. the police department, sheriff, or what have you, in that state. And so when you start talking about an Insurrection Act, it's like you said, it's madness, it's chaos, it's people who are violent trying to almost overthrow. And as an example, you can look at when they rushed the Capitol, and what was that? Oh my God! Just recently, what was that? 2021. I'm sorry, I'm just having a brain freeze. But that would have been an insurrection. That would have been a time when he was chilling, just watching things take place, for him to say, hey, come on in here and let's squash this thing. And he didn't. And now that we're at peace, he wants to have chaos. He wants to really bring in the forces so that there can be an insurrection. In other words, he's stoking the fires. He's stoking the flames. And what he wants is for people to rise up. And at that point, then he can say we have an insurrection. I mean, everybody's on to what he's trying to do. The problem is that a lot of times with these laws, they're not defined specifically. And so as such, they're saying that however he decides to define it, he does have some authority to invoke the Insurrection Act. But if we look at what's on the books, if there's not violence, if there's not a takeover, if there's not a situation where that state's government can't handle whatever chaos there is, then he would be a last resort. And if he goes beyond that, he's going outside of the law. He's once again doing what he's done so frequently so far in the last 9 or 10 months. He's going to be breaking the law.
What is considered an insurrection? While the term insurrection is not explicitly defined by federal law, courts and legal scholars generally interpret it as a violent uprising or organized resistance against the government or its regulations. And that's from the Federal Criminal Attorneys.com. So an insurrection is not explicitly defined by federal law, but the courts and legal scholars have said, it's a violent uprising or organized resistance against the government or its regulations. That's not to say that people don't have the right to protest. If the protest is not violent, then they have the right to protest, such as, the No Kings. Now, the last 4 insurrections in the United States, this is going back to 2014, the Bundy standoff. That was April 5th through the 14th. And then the occupation of the Maher National Wildlife Refuge, I remember that. That was 2016. The Capitol Hill Occupied protests, that was in 2020, June 8th to July 1st. And of course, the last insurrection, 2021, United States Capitol attack, led by the fascist and felon of the United States. So, bottom line is, you're right, he wants to provoke a fight. He's the instigator right now. The rapid deployment of federal troops. The prevailing theory seems to be that he is going to try and deploy them to polling places.
Well, Mike, before you get to that, here's the thing. I want to circle back to that, which we've said numerous episodes about the elections. And my observations is that now we have this quick reaction forces that they're mobilizing. They want 500 troop-type military or federal officers to be ready to deploy in each state Now, before they get to the elections, I think they want to normalize these guys being seen in cities and in states. So when they do get to the pollings, it won't be questioned why they're standing there.
Well, that's been the attempt.
It would be. I would question it because if there's no violence going on at polling places, why are you there?
To snatch the election machines or whatever.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. As soon as he says, "Oh no, I don't like this,"
the count's not going this direction, or count's not going this way, or
hasn't the courts ruled against him going into what community? Not California. What was the last community? Was it Utah? What was the last community?
Portland, Oregon.
Maybe it was Portland. I thought it was Utah, but maybe it was Portland.
San Francisco. Well, it was a town. Yeah, recently they did say no, you can't deploy there.
Chicago, you can't deploy in Chicago. Is another one that's gone up to the courts, and obviously they're going to throw it up to the Supreme Court at some point to make a decision, which we should be concerned about that. But as it stands, the courts are saying, you know what, that it's out of your realm to deploy forces without the wishes or without the request of the governors of those states. So.
That's true.
But everything he has been doing has really been against the Constitution and against the law, as we've known it.
So here's the thing, though, with these quick reaction forces, they're being trained to be able to handle the civil disturbances, and they're trained to be able to do it non-physically. Like with just batons and stuff like that, not necessarily using a rifle. I'm just saying. I know you guys.
That's pretty physical.
You guys are giving me looks.
You ever been hit with a baton? They're not going to be waving them magically to make people disappear. They'll be employing those batons. So, So.
It also says trained in crowd control techniques, including the use of non-lethal equipment like batons, body shields, and pepper spray.
Yeah, that's what they say. But when it comes down to it, these people are trigger happy. They're going to shoot. That's the bottom line.
Well, I mean,
they're trigger happy.
That goes back to Kent State. Is it Kent State?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. Correct. And that wasn't even an insurrection.
No.
Those are just trigger happy National Guard people because those students were not attacking them. They didn't have guns. They weren't throwing stuff at them. The National Guard people just got trigger happy and just said, I can't take it no more. Just started shooting.
You guys realize the last time the Insurrection Act was invoked was 33 years ago after the Rodney King decision.
Right.
Yeah, 92.
Yep.
I think it was by Bush.
Right.
So,
right, and that would have been proper.
There was chaos. And
right. That was proper, right.
And then before that, was it the desegregation happened of schools? They had to have the military come in because the sheriff's department and local police.
Oh, yeah.
That's 65 when they crossed Edmund Pettus Bridge.
Right.
Yeah.
65.
Yeah. So we've got all these examples. But I wanted to just discuss the Insurrection Act lightly because I wanted to get to the point of Mike and I had a conversation. Well, I listened. Mike said
Let me hear it, Mike.
that it's going to be a revolution. Yeah. A revolution is going to happen. He was probably thinking it was going to happen when Trump was around the very first time. But now I think they're leading up to it. There's reinforcement fencing around the White House. Senior administration are moving to military bases and saying the reason they're moving because they're being harassed outside their homes. And the only reason I see, this is, again, Keith sometimes has to walk me off the ledge when I get to the point of being conspiracy theories, but my thought is that they are preparing for an upheaval that's going to take place and that they need to be behind a fence and guard it.
That's what fascists do. They're going to run scared. They're thin-skinned. They're going to run scared. Like you said, he's provoking the fight. He is the instigator of the violence. The radical, violent right is instigating this violence. Any violence that happens, they're the instigators. So He can talk all he wants to, and I could barely stand to watch him last night. I don't know why he even turned that on. But he can say he's the one that is provoking the fight. Mm-hmm. And yes, I understand. They're putting up fencing, running to their bunkers. So if they're doing that, what are the rest of us? What should we be doing? If you see what they're preparing for, shouldn't we get prepared also? Just like Trump said, he wants to start nuclear testing because Russia and China are testing. So he said we should be doing tests too. We should be getting ready too, shouldn't we?
We should.
Yeah, we should follow the president's lead. Oh, it's going to be violence. Well, let me get ready. And that provokes even more violence.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, I think by and large, when I say we, I mean the people have done a good job, really, even with the 7 million that showed up for the No Kings, of displaying calm, being collected. But I think at the end of the day, what's really going to make a difference is whatever upcoming elections that we have and how those impact, whether it be the New Jersey governor race or the Virginia governor race or the New York mayor race, and how those things play out. And we'll see. It gives us an opportunity to kind of gauge where people are in terms of their temperature, in terms of whether or not they're ready to scale back from MAGA. It's one thing to be Republican, but it's a whole nother thing to be a MAGA person, right? And so are they going to begin to scale back? Will that be reflected in the voices used by voting? And that's where you'll see whether or not the MAGA loyalists will get stronger in terms of the tricks and the ploys they use to try to incite us or violence amongst the people, or whether or not they can say, hey, this is really playing out the way we want it to. People are passive. We're able to do what we want to do. The courts are saying what they want, and yet we don't have to abide by court decisions. And then even so, when it gets up to the Supreme Court, they seem to always, more recently, they give Trump a nod in terms of doing whatever he wants to do. And so I think at the end of the day, there could be a revolution. And for all intents and purposes, there should be. But it would be at what point, at what level, because the people have to speak, right? Decisions are made from the bottom up, not from, I heard on the MSNBC, not from the top down, not by the 5 richest people in the nation who determine what we do, what we see, what we say. The people have to speak because this is a democracy, and if it's going to continue to be a democracy, then revolution could be necessary. But I think first and foremost, when the votes are counted and the votes that are coming in, whether it's now or the midterms, the people will speak, and then we'll see what actions are taken either by the Democrats or the Republicans to try to direct where we go from here, because we all know that democracy is at risk right now.
Yes. Yeah. That's very true, Keith. Yeah, because voting takes place tomorrow. In quite a few states. Yeah. So and the governor's 2-ticket governor, Virginia and Jersey, right?
In Jersey.
I can't think of any other ones. I'm sure there's some out there, but.
Yeah, but those are the 2 where Obama showed up and kind of stumped for both of them.
Yes.
And so those that's important to see if the people turn out and if their voices will be heard. But,
Mike, have you heard from any of your friends who kind of gave you some insight on the shutdown?
Not really, other than losing their paychecks, but not. All I can tell you is it is going to last past Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Sure.
That's right. That's a universal acknowledgement that nope, this is not going to be solved before Thanksgiving. And fascist in chief come out today and says this will end when the Democrats give in. That's his exact words. When they give in.
Yeah, I saw that.
He can, like I said before, he can make deals all over the world. He solved 8 wars in 8 months or whatever, in 8 weeks, whatever his timeline is. But he doesn't seem to be able to, or doesn't even want to, keep his own country going.
Right.
You can make deals. You're the great deal maker, but you're not even trying to make a deal here. You're saying, nope, you're going to do what we say, the way we say it. And that's why it's going to remain shut down, because nobody trusts him. Nobody trusts the Republican Party at this point.
You know what?
You don't take away people's health care and then say, oh, we'll negotiate later. You're not going to negotiate. You're not going to bring it back.
Right.
No.
You've had 12 years to come up with a health care plan.
Mm-hmm.
And you haven't done it yet.
Right.
And even last night when he was pressed about health care, we're just going to take this away.
He doesn't have a plan.
He doesn't have a plan.
Oh,
Not
yeah,
even a concept of a plan.
Yeah, they definitely were saying it was a poor plan, but they still don't have one to replace it with.
No.
Right.
No.
Right.
And it's my understanding the Affordable Health Care Act was their plan.
Yeah.
With a few modifications, it was their plan.
Mm-hmm.
So, like most things, Republicans don't like it when anybody else does anything positive, even if it's with their plan. Even if you agree, even if a Democrat agrees with the Republican and say, yeah, let's do what you said do, then the Republican will say, well, I don't want to do this. It's your plan.
Right. Right.
We agreed to do your plan, and you come back and say, oh, because you guys are in charge and are going to implement that plan, oh, well, we're not going to do that.
Right.
Then come up with another plan. Nope.
Yeah. I mean, that's why we are where we are, Mike, because they've been playing hardball for a while. They've been playing politics for a while.
Since Ronald Reagan. Yep.
I want to say they've been playing politics, but if you're playing politics, you find a way to meet in the middle.
That's true.
You will compromise. But they've decided that, particularly in this era of MAGA, that it's my way or the highway. If we don't do it our way, we're not doing it at all. And so now you're fighting fire with fire.
Right.
You know, that being said, I did see where supposedly they're going to provide for partial SNAP payments, as opposed to, the court said that it's illegal to just not disperse those funds. So they're going to provide partial, but if they had decided that they were going to provide the full payments, it would have had to be effective today. In order to prolong it, which they can prolong for another couple weeks or so, they've decided on the partial, under the guise that we don't want to see people starve, because the Democrats decided not to, once again, after 13 or 14 votes, not to open the government up. So they're trying to parlay it into a victory of sorts by saying, see, we did at least give you guys partial SNAP payments for food. And so, yeah, they are really, I mean, they're so apathetic around human rights and just serving the people. It's something I've never seen before. It's really, I mean, we're really in a bad place. When you govern, when you win, you get voted in as a majority, presumably, but then you still serve all of the people.
Thank you, Keith. You are representing all the people.
That's where the, what do you call him, the fascist in chief, has fallen short, because he's so divisive that if you're a Democrat, he thinks you're just, I mean, you're the worst of the worst. And that's so illogical. It just speaks to his dementia. Nobody wants to talk about it, but there's something wrong with that man.
There is something wrong with him. him and his DEI. Yep. He sidebar, this has nothing to do with Insurrection Act. I'm sorry to go off.
No, yeah, that's fine.
But real quick, the immigration refugee limit in this country was 125,000. Now it's 7,500. And he said we're giving preferential treatment to Afrikaners.
Right.
Because the farmers are having their land taken and they're being killed. And he held up some pictures of some bodies, which were from 1,000 miles away in Darfur,
Darfur?
Darfur, right.
Yeah.
Those bodies were from a couple thousand miles away. And when the president of South Africa tried to tell him, no, the farmers are not being killed, he didn't want to hear it. He don't care. Whatever it comes out of his mouth, that's what it is.
That's what it is. Yeah.
That's what it is. And he doesn't want to hear anything else. He doesn't care about the truth. He doesn't care that 1 and 1 is 2. If he says it's 3, it's 3.
That's it.
Right. So that's where we're at. So to give racial preference, because they said there will be no more black refugees coming into this country. 0. He cut off all refugees from all black countries. And of the 7,500 that he is, refugees that he will allow into the country, most of those will be white. And a big majority of them coming from South Africa are given the preferential treatment.
And those individuals are, and I hate to paint it with a broad brush, are beneficiaries of apartheid system, which was like segregation. I mean, they ruled all the wealth and so forth. They took everything, and now they're saying, woe is me. But you know what? Trump is willing to embrace it, because this whole notion of of making America great again is extending privileges to people who look like him. And it has nothing to do with somebody who looks like any of us, but anybody that looks like him, you draw a pass. And that's a reality. That's not
it would seem to me,
or hearsay.
No, I would think that some members of Congress would be able to bring a case against that policy, saying, no, this is DEI.
It's blatant on its face.
Right, it's blatant. This is DEI. You cannot give preferential treatment based on race. Right. You yourself said you don't want that in this country, but you're bringing in people under preferential treatment. So he is as confused and as phony a person. That's why nobody trusts him.
Well, it's back to what you said, Mike. If he says it, up is down and down is up, and you don't have anybody who's willing to stand up to him because the emperor has new clothes, then basically they're going to go along with whatever he says, whenever he says it, and it doesn't matter. So his reality is totally different from most of our reality, and unfortunately, he has no concept of the truth or even abiding by the truth.
No, he has none. None.
Yeah. Well,
what say you, TC?
Oh, no, you guys said it. I have nothing to say or nothing to add. Nothing to add. I just wanted to point out the fact that I think something's coming down. But I do want to wait, like you said, keep patiently to see what happens November 4th of 2025, which comes out of that and how everyone responds to that. But I still think that they are laying the foundation of bigger things to come.
Correct. Dean said it. He's telling the military, get ready for deployment. We'll send you if we need you. We'll send the military into these cities. We're going to do it. We're going to do it. He is really... And now he wants to go into Mexico and Nigeria. I'm sorry. Is it Nigeria?
I don't know if it's
I haven't heard about Nigeria or Mexico. Yeah, you mean invading?
Yes, he wants to go. Yeah, he wants to.
No, I haven't heard that.
Yeah, where they're killing the Christians in Africa. I think that's Nigeria. Yeah, he wants to go in with airstrikes against the Muslims that are killing the Christians.
Now, was that Darfur where the bloodshed?
No, not Darfur. Right.
Where you can see the blood from the satellite from outer space. No,
right, correct. No, he's not going in there. No, that is a different situation. That's a whole different topic for another podcast. But he wants to go there, and of course, Mexico. He wants to fight the drug cartels, and that's what that's about. But he's blowing steam.
But he said he's not going into Venezuela. But I'll continue to bomb their boats.
Right. And then if you're not going into Venezuela, well, why did you send an aircraft carrier group steaming in that direction?
Right.
Come on, man. What are you doing? You're saying one thing, but the military is doing something different. So, I hear what you say, but I see what you do. And I'm going to trust what I see what you do.
Right. You can't believe them, and that's the problem with this whole circling back around to the government shutdown.
Right.
Who's negotiating with somebody you can't negotiate with? Right. Because he'll look you in your face and say, I'm going to do this, and he'll do that. And so he can't be trusted, Mike, and that's the bottom line. He's shown us, he's proven himself over and over and over again that he can't be trusted. So you can't bargain with somebody who you can't bargain with in good faith. His word is not his bond. Wouldn't shake his hand if they gave me half of his money, and he got because you can't believe a thing he says.
This whole Venezuela thing, I kind of liken that to how the drug wars were back in the 80s, where all the people who were getting arrested were the street people. There were nobody high level getting busted and sent to jail for years. It was the little small time dealers are on the corner fighting for a piece of territory who were getting swept up, and these guys on these boats are being treated the same way, being bombed, but they're still not getting the people at the higher levels or the source of where the stuff is coming that they put on the boat.
Right, kind of like the Epstein Island. All those high people in the high places that were, doing what they were doing to those little girls. Oh, we ain't doing that. But
hey, Tom, I hate to say this, but I wouldn't be surprised if kickbacks from on high weren't ordered. And so, the cartels do what they do, but there's a price. They make hand over fist. And so if they're dispersing a little bit of it for people to look the other way, and to bomb the low level people or take out the low level people, then so be it. But like you said, the sacrificial pig, the fat cats aren't getting touched.
No. And you're right. That's how it works. They pay to import whatever they want to import. You can get anything in the United States if you pay the right price. That's the bottom line.
All right, guys. That's a quick episode for us. We touched on a couple of things that I want to hit on, in particular the insurrection and how the military is encroaching our country slowly, not necessarily invisible, but under cloak. I guess it's the best way to put it. Yeah.
Definitely infringing on our civil liberties, if you will.
Right.
Slowly but surely peeling away until, from a media standpoint, from freedom of speech to, at some point they're going to be, hey Mike, they're going to go against their own, they love the Second Amendment, but at some point, so that citizens don't have arms, they're going to peel that back a little bit. Right, and then you're gonna have to turn in everything you have so that you can be at a total disadvantage. I'm taking it to another level, but you know that I wouldn't be surprised.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. They got to get that past the NRA. NRA ain't going for that. No way.
Yeah. You know what? I failed to mention. I wanted to bring it up. The thing that happened right in our backyard, the Dearborn guy bust. Can we talk about that for a second?
Yes.
Because that was something. I was telling Marsha it was fake and phony from the minute I heard it.
Yeah, I thought about you when I saw some of the media information today in terms of them having, I think, 5 people now. All of them are relatively young, and what really gets me is back to what I was saying about them peeling away our rights to own guns. They're arresting these guys on the premise that they went out and bought ARs and they had ammunition and such, and that there was a plan Halloween to incite violence. But they're not providing much evidence to that extent. They went to Dearborn, where there's a high concentration of Muslims, and so far,
Patel made the announcement.
Patel is all about being out front and center, and except for when he takes his girlfriend on exclusive trips and private planes at our expense, at the government's expense. But it's just, to your point, Tom, when I first heard about it and I started really pay attention, I said, I want to hear what's going to come out of this. And so I've been really focusing on it. And so little by little, they're releasing information, and they're not being very specific, but it doesn't seem to be at a high level, and they're trying to tie it to ISIS. And so, to me, if you're going to go about purchasing these weapons, which you don't have to register an AR, by the way, typically it's undercover, it's on the black market. You don't want anybody to know, and a lot of times they get it without the serial numbers intact, right? But these people literally recently went out and purchased some weapons. They went to the range, and they were firing them because why not? They're saying they begin to fire them so they could become more skillful in taking out their targets. And you can allege that's true. But if I go to the gun range to use my 9mm per se, then I just want to be comfortable with using it. I want to be able to use it safely. I definitely want to be able to hit whatever target I'm aiming at. And who buys a weapon, or anything for that matter, and they don't try to become skillful at using it?
So now there's a problem with the Second Amendment?
No, I just threw that out there. That was an extreme. There's no problem. My point
but my point to what you're saying, okay, so what? They bought guns.
Exactly.
That's their right. That's their right to buy guns, right. And if they want to go to the range, that's their right.
Right. There's no. In other words, you said all of that to say what? Because there's no crime in any of that.
Yeah, no crime.
No.
You can legally buy ARs. You can legally buy ammunition. You can legally go to a range and practice as much as you want. That is not a crime.
No, not at all.
Now, the oldest person arrested was 20 years old, and he still has not been charged. I'm going to say that again. The oldest person that was arrested is 20 years old and still has not been charged with the crime. The youngest person was 14.
Right.
None of the others are in custody. None of the others are in custody. And the 20-year-old, I believe, is still in custody, but they're going to have to release him real soon because you don't have a crime.
Right.
These kids were in a chat room.
Right.
You don't plan a terror attack in a public chat room like that.
Well, even if you do, it's conversation. It could be
Right.
boasting. It could be video game
Davis,
conversation.
just-
It could be
right,
jargon
right.
from any old thing. You just,
Exactly.
I mean, to go as far as they went, the FBI and all that other stuff. To go as far as they went, I just think they went too far over something that they're trying to cook up.
To instill fear.
Instill fear and use Dearborn as the vice. Because
hey, look, this is a little bit off target, but it's relative. So when the group of Republicans, young Republicans, went and they were sending texts and emails and back and forth with racist slang and so forth, and about how they support and love the Nazis, that was young people, although they were over 30, but they were kids in the minds of our vice president. That was just poppycock. That was just something that kids do because they're kids. You got these five who are much younger, 20 and down to age 14, and maybe you can look at them with the same kind of judgment, right? So I'm not saying that you take these things lightly, but just to be able to say, "Hey, look at what we did. Look at what we're doing." No, that's false. That's just them inciting and instilling and trying to instill fear in everybody, because they're saying, "Look at us. Look at what we're doing. We just stopped a terrorist attack."
Right.
Not really.
Not really. Right.
Yeah.
And just to give them an excuse to go into Dearborn and start harassing those people.
Right.
To go into Dearborn and
exactly.
harass
It's an excuse even for to run up the quick reaction forces. To deploy those guys or guys and gals.
Exactly.
I apologize for letting that slip my mind. I did wanted to tie that back into insurrection, and it kind of just slipped my mind.
You do a good job, Mr. Courtney.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Yeah, I appreciate that. All right, fellas. Once again, I think that was a pretty controversial one.
To learn more about today's topics, become a subscriber or receive notifications. Text us or become a supporter. Go to the show descriptions. That's all the time we have this week. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next week with the What's Going On podcast.